exactly 6 p.m. Cairo local time. It's time for this English news bulletin coming to you out of Channel 2. This is Reem Tamer. We begin with the political segment and we kick off with the headlines. President Sisi renews congratulations to Al-Alani on his historical election as UNESCO Director General. Prime Minister Madbouli inspects development and services projects in Qalyubiyya Governorate. And Israel ceases fire in Gaza and starts returning home. Welcome back. The news in full. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call on Saturday from Cypriot counterpart Nikos discussing the latest developments in the Middle East, particularly the agreement reached in Sharm el-Sheikh to end the war in Gaza. The Cypriot president welcomed the agreement and praised Egypt's pivotal role and President al-Sisi's personal efforts in helping to secure the ceasefire. The president stressed the importance of fully implementing the deal, ensuring the release of hostages, the entry of humanitarian aid, and the start of Gaza's reconstruction. The two leaders also addressed bilateral relations, agreeing to strengthen cooperation in trade, investment, tourism, and construction, and to build on the outcomes of their January 2025 summit. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received on Saturday Dr. Khalid Al-Anani, Egypt's former Minister of Tourism and Antiquities and the newly elected Director General of UNESCO, in the presence of Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdel Ati. Presidential spokesperson Ambassador Mohammed Al-Shinawi said President al-Sisi congratulated Al-Anani on landslide victory in the UNESCO Executive Board elections, where he secured the support of 55 out of 57 member states. President al-Sisi described the win as a historic achievement that reflects Egypt's prestigious international standing and the world's appreciation of its rich cultural heritage and civilization legacy. He also expressed gratitude to all nations that supported Egypt's candidate. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli began on Saturday an inspection tour of a number of ongoing development and services projects in Qalyubiyya Governorate. Madbouli was accompanied by Minister of Housing, Utilities and Urban Communities Sharif al-Shibini, Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research Muhammad Ashur, and Qalyubiyya Governor Ayman Atiyah, as well as a number of senior state officials. The Madbouli started the tour by inspecting Housing for All Egyptians project. The Premier was briefed on the executive situation of the Great Capitals and Cities Development Program project in the Governorate, which will be carried out in 5 sites nationwide. Prime Minister Madbouli also stressed the necessity of expanding more green and parking areas. During his tour in Qalyubiyya, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli stressed that the state saves no efforts in offering different means of support for serious industrial projects. This came during his inspection tour of a factory in Ubur city. During his tour, Madbouli was briefed on the stages of manufacturing, comprehensive production line, and an exhibition of company of local and exportation market. During his tour in Qalyubiyya, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli inspected Gold School for Applied Technology, specialized in accessories and jewelry industry. Madbouli stressed the government's keenness on developing the technical education sector, hailing the school as a huge development in the field. The Gold School is the first school in Egypt and the Middle East specialized in accessories and jewelry industry. Moreover, Prime Minister Madbouli also inspected TNC factory for ready-made outfit. The factory offers 7,200 permanent jobs of a production that reaches 55,000 pieces daily. The company's production is fully exported regularly to over 50 countries. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Expatriates Badr Abdelati held talks with his U.S. counterpart Marco Rubio on the situation and positive developments regarding the Palestinian question and efforts exerted to end the war in Gaza Strip. The meeting also tackled coordination and remarkable cooperation between President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump. In the phone call, the Foreign Minister and U.S. Secretary of State discussed the preparations of Sharm el-Sheikh summit that will be chaired by both President al-Sisi and U.S. President Trump and its preparations. The two diplomats discussed the international participation in Sharm el-Sheikh summit in addition to the arrangements of implementing the first phase of the ceasefire deal. The U.S. Secretary of State said that Sharm el-Sheikh summit is a historical event that is one of a kind, hailing the distinguished leading role of President al-Sisi and the Egyptian state that played a great role in reaching the historical deal. For his part, Foreign Minister Abdelati said that President al-Sisi expresses a great appreciation to the U.S. President Trump and his peace plan, asserting the importance of continuing and implementing the deal on the ground, whether during the first phase or in the second phase, noting that the deal brings hope to the people of the region, especially the Palestinian people. Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdelati met on Saturday with head of the Egyptian Drug Authority, Dr. Ali Al-Ghamrawi. The tackled means to enhance the access of the Egyptian pharmaceutical exports to foreign markets. Badr Abdelati stressed that the pharmaceutical sector represents one of the key pillars of Egypt's cooperation with developing countries. He confirmed that increasing the presence of the Egyptian medicines in international markets, especially African, contributes to supporting development efforts, localizing pharmaceutical industries, and meeting the need of the African market. For his part, Dr. Ali Al-Ghamrawi reviewed the ongoing efforts to develop Egypt's national pharmaceutical system in accordance with international standards to facilitate the approval of the Egyptian products in foreign markets. Israel declared a ceasefire in Gaza and began to pull back its forces on Friday as tens of thousands of exhausted Palestinians made their way back to their devastated homes. For the second day in a row, convoys of returning Palestinians to Gaza City and cities in the north continue walking on foot or in vehicles carrying Palestinians along the coastal road and Salah ad-Din and al-Rashid roads linking the south of the Strip with the north, decorated with Egyptian flags. Rescue workers began retrieving dozens of bodies from vast stretches of debris after the ceasefire took effect. Gaza's Civil Defense Agency confirmed that Israeli troops and armored vehicles were pulling back from forward positions in both Gaza City and Khan Yunis. Israel warned that some areas were still off limits and that Palestinians should steer clear of its forces while they were adjusting operational positions in the Gaza Strip. Shuhada al-Aqsa Hospital announced the death of a Palestinian elder by Israeli fires in Qarara town northeast of Khan Yunis city in Gaza Strip. For its part, Palestinian medical sources announced that the rescue teams pulled out 11 dead bodies in different areas across Gaza Strip. The teams added that 9,500 Palestinians are still missing in the Strip. U.S. President Donald Trump himself expressed confidence that the ceasefire would hold, telling reporters that Israel and Hamas were all tired of the fighting. The withdrawal set the clock running on a 72-hour deadline for Hamas to release the remaining hostages held in Gaza. Israel published the list of the 250 Palestinian prisoners it plans to release, along with 1,700 Gazans detained since the war triggered on October the 7th, 2023. Italy said that the European Union mission at the Rafah border between Gaza and Egypt will be reopening a pedestrian crossing on October 14th. Under the ceasefire deal proposed by Trump, Hamas will hand over 47 remaining hostages, living and dead, from the 251 taken hostages during the October 7th attack 2 years ago. The remains of one more hostage held in Gaza since 2014 are also expected to be returned. Leaders of Britain, France and Germany urged the UN Security Council to back the plan. Lebanese Health Ministry said Israel carried out intense airstrikes on southern Lebanon early on Saturday, killing 1 person and also wounding 7, and briefly cutting a highway that links Beirut with parts of South Lebanon. The pre-dawn airstrikes on the village of Sailat struck a place that sold heavy machinery, destroying a large number of vehicles. The health ministry later said that the one slain was a Syrian citizen, while the wounded were Syrian national and 6 Lebanese, including 2 women. At least 60 people were killed on Saturday in a paramilitary drone attack on a displacement camp on the city of El Fasher in western Sudan. The resistance committees for El Fasher said the paramilitary rapid support forces carried out 2 drone strikes and fired 8 artillery shells at the Dar al-Arqam camp located within a university. They had earlier reported a total of 30 dead, but said bodies remain trapped in underground shelters. The RSF has been at war with the regular army since April 2023. The conflict has killed tens of thousands of people, displaced millions, and pushed nearly 25 million into acute hunger. Emergency crews restored power to many parts of Ukraine after an overnight Russian drone and missile attack on Friday struck energy facilities, plunging large districts of Kiev and other areas into darkness and cutting water supplies. More details in the next report.
Power was restored to over 800,000 residents in Kiev on Saturday, a day after major attacks by Russia on the Ukrainian power grid caused blackouts across much of the country. Ukraine's largest private energy company said Saturday that the main work to restore the power supply had been completed, but that some localized outages were still affecting the Ukrainian capital following Friday's massive Russian attacks. Russian drone and missile strikes wounded at least 20 people in Kiev, damaged residential buildings and caused blackouts across swaths of Ukraine early Friday. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Air Force said Saturday its air defenses intercepted or jammed 54 of 78 Russian drones launched against Ukraine overnight, whilst Russia's defense ministry said it had shot down 42 Ukrainian drones over Russian territory. Ukrainian Prime Minister Yولио described the attack as one of the largest concentrated strikes against Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Energy sector has been a key battleground since Russia launched its all-out invasion more than 3 years ago. The latest round of attacks came after the leaders of Britain, France and Germany said they had agreed in a phone call to use the value of frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine's armed forces.
Dear viewers, by that we reached the end of this English news bulletin. Came to you out of Channel 2. That was Reem Tamer. Now it's time to say many thanks for watching.